Hi everyone and welcome to today's Discover History YouTube channel. You've got me back, and I do apologise that I'm not doing as many videos as I should be. As most of you are aware, I am recovering from emergency life-saving surgery, so my energy levels are still incredibly low and I'm doing the very best I can. I'm just as keen to get back up on my feet as quickly as possible, as I'm sure you are in seeing me all. Now, today's video is all about witchcraft, and it's an interest of mine, as well as a popular show that I get booked for with English Heritage and Lincoln Castle. It's always one of those popular Halloween shows. Now, witchcraft was first documented around about the 14th century, and it's sort of good to express that it wasn't just women at that time that were accused of being witches, it was men and children as well. Now, if you were brought on trial of being a witch, in England we always hanged our witches. They were never burnt here. In Scotland they did have a burning, and you could say maybe it was a lot colder there, so that was one of the reasons they did that. However, in England, anyone that was found guilty of being a witch was hanged for that crime. Now, when we look at it, in the 14th century, how were you found guilty of being a witch? Well, one of the things they used to get you to do was the fact that they would give you a Bible, and if you were able to read a passage from the Bible, you weren't a witch. If you couldn't read a passage from the Bible, then obviously you are in sort of cahoots with the devil, because that's why you can't read that passage, and you would be hanged for that crime. Well, let's think about it. How many people at that time could actually read or write? Not many. So was it a fair trial? I don't think so. And later on in history, Queen Elizabeth I also thought the same. So she decided to change the rules, and she said, we will find out if you are a witch by doing something different. Now, what did she do to make it fair? Well, she said if you weighed heavier than the Bible, you were a witch. Okay, how many people are going to weigh heavier than a Bible? Most of us, really. So again, did she change the rules to make it fair? It doesn't seem that was the case at all. Now, moving later into history, we get King James I of England, and he was obsessed with demonology and witches in particular. And when he rewrote the Bible, he also expressed in there, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." So again, we're getting references here of what people thought of if you were being accused of a witch. Now, what kind of crimes would you be doing to be brought up against a trial for witchcraft? Well, you could have been someone that was a gossip, so you spread rumours about people. You know, unnecessarily, it could be something that you've heard that you're passing on to someone else to say, oh, did you hear, you know, she's got strange eggs in her garden, or a strange plant or whatever. And you could be tried for being a witch for that. But it was also things like if you were an apothecary, so you were someone that made people better using herbs, or maybe even what was known as a wise woman. So you're kind of the friendly little lady down the bottom of the road that was the cheapest form of medical care going, and she exchanged maybe chicken eggs as payment in terms of having a curious cure that she made. Now, if these cures didn't work, then you would accuse her of being a witch, because you'd be like, wow, that's odd, that's really strange, why would I need to wear a frog around my neck to cure the plague? Well, who knows, it might work for one person, but it might not necessarily work for another. That's the joys with medicine. Even today, really, it might work for one person but not another. So we've got all of these kind of things helping you, sort of, well, not helping you, I should say, sort of aiding you in being accused of being a witch. But witches became more commonly known and more trials took place when we move later on and we get Matthew Hopkins. Now, he was called Matthew Hopkins, and he was self-appointed as Witchfinder General. Parliament never ever gave him that title, and he was around during the English Civil Wars, so he kind of got away with a lot, shall we say, for his trials, and he was responsible for hanging more than 300 people for crimes of witchcraft. Most of his cases took place between 1644 to 1647, and most commonly these took place in East Anglia as well. Now, he got paid 20 shillings for every town he visited that he cleansed of witches. So it does beg the question, was he in it just for the money, or was there really a lot of witches around? Now, if you were accused of being a witch, how would your trial take place? Well, first of all, he'd visit your house. He'd have a nosy around. He's looking to see if you've got a familiar. Now, a familiar could be a cat or a dog. And staying with the theme of the Civil War, Prince Rupert, who was nephew to the king, he had a poodle that was called Boy. And there was sort of propaganda going around that Boy was actually his familiar, and Prince Rupert was a witch using witchcraft to try and help aid win the Civil War for his family. Now, if they find that, you are in cahoots with the devil and you will be hanged for your crime. However, you do get the chance to say, I'm not a witch, it's just a mere pet, or it's the neighbour's pet, but it seems to follow me around. You know, most animals do that anyway. There's always talk of people's cats visiting other people for extra food or treats or cuddles. And they would then take you away. They will put you in a cell and they will constantly ask you if you're a witch. You will keep denying this fact. Now, at the time, Matthew Hopkins and his men were not allowed to torture you to get a confession out of you. So they're not able to, you know, do all the horrible things of kind of thumb screws and all of that lot. But one of the things they did do was try and sort of deprive you of sleep so they'd keep you awake. That was seen perfectly normal. Now, I don't know about you, I'm not sleeping well at the moment, and it does affect your mood slightly. When we all haven't had a great night's sleep, we all feel a bit rubbish. So if you've got someone constantly prodding you to keep you awake and going, are you a witch? Would you want that situation to end? Many people did sort of go, yes, okay, please stop, I'm a witch. But then sadly, you've confessed to a crime that you've not done, so you'd be hanged for that. But for me, I'd probably want to continue and protest my innocence. After all, I'm not a witch, and I would want to be free again and be with my family. Now, if sleep deprivation didn't work, you would then go on trial. You are brought into a room, and there's people there that are going to judge you. They'll even bring your neighbours in to kind of give eyewitness statements. And this is a big problem as well, because they don't want to be seen as being in cahoots with you, or maybe being accused of being a witch themselves. So it's a really difficult time for a lot of people. They want to be there to support you, but they don't want to show that support because of the accusations that might be made against them. So while you're in the room, once again, they will say, are you a witch? No, I'm not a witch. And at this point, they will bring the evidence of your pet, your familiar. Well, that's not going to work. They want to see more physical evidence upon your body showing that you must be a witch. Now, the way they used to do this was they used to shave all your hair off, and they would be looking for a mark upon the skin, your witch's mark. Okay, maybe your third nipple as such that the devil suckles from. Now, it could be anything from a wart upon the skin, it could be a freckle, a mole, anything like that. Now, when we look at me, I've got a mole here. So if I was brought upon trial, they would say that mole must be my devil's mark and I am a witch. We know today that everyone gets freckles and moles upon their body. However, if you've not got a mark upon the skin, so if I didn't have these here, then what they would say I've done is I've used magic to hide my witch's mark, and they need to try and break the magic. Now, the way they would do this is they would take a needle or a pin and they will prick the skin continuously. Now, if the skin went red where they've pricked, you're a witch. They've broken through the magic and you're definitely a witch. Well, we know today, don't we, that if you prick the skin, it's naturally going to go red. If I was to scratch here, after a while, it's going to go red. So it wasn't really a fair case again. You may get some people protest in the audience, but again, that might not happen because after all, they're going, well, you must be a witch, you're sticking up for them. Now, if that case didn't work, another thing they used to do was they used to take a knife. That knife was then brought upon your hand and they would cut upon your hand. Now, if blood appeared, you weren't a witch. If there was no blood at all and no mark upon the skin, well, you're a witch. It's not managed to damage you. It's not managed to cut through the magic that you're using. But at this time, there was always a bit of theatre. They always had retractable knives to kind of bring that showcase in front of people to get the, oh, they're definitely a witch as well. But one of the final things that they would do to see if you were most definitely a witch was they would use the water. And they would take you to the nearest lake, stream, river, and what they would then do, and it would be down to your preference really, they would either tie you to a chair, or they would take your thumbs and they would tie them to your toes, and when this happened they would then throw you into the water. Now if your body floated in the water, it was basically your baptism denouncing you as being sort of a Christian at that time, and with that you were in cahoots with the devil. It's kind of the water sort of getting rid of that and showcasing you as being a witch. What we need to remember though is the amount of layers of clothing, particularly women wore, that if the air got into the clothing, you'd naturally be a buoyancy aid. If you're tied to a wooden chair, wood floats. So again, you're going to naturally float. However, if you were one of the unfortunate ones that then sunk to the bottom of the water and bubbles disappeared and they never saw you again, to the point that sadly you drowned, well then they'd say that you weren't a witch after all, you were innocent, but you've still lost your life. And Matthew Hopkins would then be forced to write a letter of apology to your family saying, I'm terribly sorry. All the evidence was there originally that this person was a witch. However, it's not showcasing it now. We've did the ultimate test and they weren't a witch. I do apologise. But if you were one of those ones that did float upon the water, there is nothing more you can do. Your case is sort of sealed and you would be hanged by the neck as being a witch. Now, as I said at the start, Matthew Hopkins was paid 20 shillings for every town he went cleansing it of witches. He was responsible for more than 300 deaths of not just women, but men and children as well. So it begs the question, was he in it just for the money? Or was there really a lot of witches around? Now, when you look at one of the documentation, Stowmarket recorded that he was paid £23 plus travel expenses for going to that village cleansing it of witches. So that's a hell of a lot more money than what he should have had originally. In today's money, that's £3,800. The last known case of witchcraft was in the 1940s, and if you want to protect yourself from witches, all you need to do is take a bottle, put some nails inside, fill it with urine and wear it around your neck. So take that in mind. Do make your witch's protection. It'd be great to see. And on that note, don't have nightmares. See you soon.